Welcome to Testpad. If you're here, you probably need to organize some testing. Maybe you've been using spreadsheets, or maybe you're looking for something lighter than traditional test case management tools. Either way, you're in the right place. Testpad takes a surprisingly simple but powerful approach. Think of it like smart checklists for testing. No complicated terminology or rigid structures, just straightforward test organization that adapts to how you work. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the basics of creating your first test script, recording some results, and sharing them with your team. But first, let's get started by looking at how Testpad organizes things. Testpad organizes its content into projects, which are listed on the left, and within each project, you have folders that contain scripts, where each script defines tests on the left, and test results collected in columns, which we call test runs, over on the right. And when you want to share results, you use reports. You right-click and select View Report on folders or on scripts. And the right-click is a top tip in general. You can right-click on objects to access like project settings or the View Report. Okay, let's create our first script. To do that, we'll make a project for it and then make a script in it. So we go to the plus button to make a new project. We'll just call that example project for now. We have our example project. Now we'll use the script button to say new script. We won't give it a name for now. We'll just leave it saying new script. And we click on it. And here we have an empty script waiting for us to click in here and start typing. So if we're doing an app, say a notepad app, we could say basic operations. This text editor is flexible, so we can drive it around with the cursor keys. You don't need the mouse. I'm just pressing up and down. And we can come back here and let's give some tests to the basic operations. So hit enter to make a new line, hit tab to indent. And so on. Typing using tab to indent rows, shift tab to outdent rows, making multiple line selections, moving them around. And that was the manual way by typing. So if we use the edit menu, import tests option, we can copy paste text from somewhere else. We import the text and we get a line per text line. Then we could come in and we could make multi-selections and apply some structure to what we just imported. Or if what we copy paste has some structure already, structure as in some leading white space, if the lines start with some spaces, then Testpad will use that to build the structure on import. Now, as I'm doing it in this example, it's our suggestion to keep test prompts really simple, really short, because they're much faster to write. It's kind of obvious what they mean if you word them well, and it's much quicker to maintain. But you don't have to do this if you prefer much more spelled out test prompts that look more like test cases with steps and expected outcomes. You can totally do that. Okay, now we've got our basic example test script. Let's go for some result collection. To do that, we need a new column, which we call a test run. So we click on the new test run button to get an empty column ready for collecting results. Before we do that, let's configure the header data, for example, by adding a new field, which is so we record the browser, if this is a web app, for example. Let's say that we want the browser field one up from the bottom. So in this test run column that we're configuring, say we're testing Chrome, and let's say it's build 111. To get testing, we can double click in a cell or click on the play button. So now we're running this test run. We perform the test and record a result. Now, if something's not working, you can just say didn't work, or you can optionally type a comment in to say, and now there's a comment against that test result. We also provide some other result types. It's up to you what you use these for. Our suggestion is that blocked is for when you can't perform the test because of some previous problem. Query might be for the tester to raise a question for the test author. And exclude is an on the fly, this test doesn't apply. And if while you're testing, a new test idea occurs to you, you can always go and add a new line of test. Let's say we also want to run these tests for a different browser. This time, say the Edge browser, again for the same build. We make another test run column, again record results by hovering on the play button and pressing pass or fail, recording comments as required. Now that testing is underway, let's have a look at sharing a report of how testing is going. Access reports by right-clicking on a script or in future on a folder. And when we choose View Report, we get the report in a new tab, which looks much like the script, except it's a read-only summary showing all the tests, all the results, and then a collection of all the comments that were typed that we don't have room to display in the table of results. To share this with other people, look in the config button in the top corner and click on the enable guest access, which gives you a link, and anyone with that link can open this page and read this report. If they refresh, they will see the latest progress. And so where do folders come in? We've talked about a script collecting some tests. Folders are good for grouping your scripts when you need more than one script to define the tests in a project. So let's make a folder. Let's use a folder to model this release and say this is release 1.0. This page has drag and drop, so let's put our script inside the folder. Let's now give it a name and call it, say, basic tests. Let's have more scripts. Again, let's organize these into a sensible order. Okay, let's fast forward to when the testing for this release is finished, and we're looking to prepare our testing for the next release. So we can right click on a folder and we can choose duplicate. It gives us a copy of all the scripts we had last time without any of the results. So it's a fresh copy of all the tests we had last time. And then we can give it a sensible name, say this is release 2.0. If we want this to sit at the top, we can drag and drop. And now as a copy, we can edit these tests to bring them up to date with what's new in the product, without spoiling the reports, the record of what went before in the previous release. If you've come from a test case management background, you may be wondering, where do the test cases go? Where are the steps? Where are the expected outcomes? Well, with Testpad's freeform checklist style of test prompting, it's really up to you how you format your tests, and there are lots of possibilities. You can structure your test prompts as a collection of test cases. In this example, you'll notice that not every row is a test. Some of these are comments. You get a comment if you put a double hyphen in front of the test text. That makes it a comment or a non-test row. This is convenient if you want to have, for example, steps where you don't collect results and only collect results for rows which are your expected outcomes. Notice how we've got lots of test cases in one script. This script is not meant to be just one case. Or you can use more structure with the indentation and make groups called steps and expected for each test case. Testpad does support multi-line test rows like you might find in a spreadsheet, but this really isn't recommended because it gets awkward to edit and drive the cursor around. So much preferred is to have one line of text per test row. And if you need non-test rows, to use the comment syntax by putting double hyphen at the beginning of a line. There's also built-in support for syntax highlighting if you like to use behavior-driven development, specifically the Gherkin syntax for given, when, then, including when that gets more complicated with example data. And that's the basics of Testpad. As you can see, it really is as simple as it looks. Just write down what you want to test, collect your results, and share them with a team. The best way to learn is to dive in and just give it a try. And remember, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to support. We're here to help you get the most out of Testpad.